Hey, how's y'all doing, everybody? Again, this is your host, Mr. Blow Your Minds, and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. First and foremost, want to say what's good to my fam, my subscribers, my day ones, and my new subscribers. What's good, fam? Welcome to the Black Minds News Report family. Passerbys, if you happen to click on due to the thumbnail, we always got a grand opening over here. Go down the aisle, see some things that you might happen to see. Might see something that make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of my show is, the truth don't need no partner. This show has been in the business since 2012, but if you just go down and looked at all the videos in the last several years, you will see that this channel can't get over 100 to 200 views from the time that it is put out. What is it that we over here in Black Minds, that we say that the establishment, that YouTube in itself, as a matter of fact, for many of y'all who came and seen the last video that I did about Jacob Blake, did you notice that there was an age restriction on the video that when you seen it, you had to ask yourself, why would they put an age restriction on a video that you do, that majority of stuff that you say all the time, but what made this particular video needed to be restricted? Because why? They can't explain it, and then they deny the fact that I couldn't even try to, let's say, they have in the system for YouTube that you can challenge when they do something, like people who are maliciously out here because certain things you say they don't like. Well, have you ever watched a TV show or watched something on TV that you didn't like? What did you do? You turn the channel. So what is this thing? You go run. I'm telling, he said some things that I didn't like. I didn't say anything that you didn't like. You didn't like what Rudolph said. And Rudolph going to say it again today on this show, right? So can you believe that a show that is so suppressed? Again, I did a video back in April 1st of 2014. That video was considered viral in this corner. After that, they decided that this channel would never get up off the ground. Can you believe that? I've been on 2.930 subscribers for the last 3-4 years. Many of you would have been done gave up. Obviously, I must not be in the game for that, right? But that's just what it is, and that's just who they are, right? So today's show is based on the same thing like the Jacob Blake, but this here is in another aspect of it, because some things have manifested itself due to the Jacob Blake situation, where people who can see the same thing but have different feelings, their interactions with the municipalities and the outcomes seem to be different. So everybody have their own opinion and perspective about things versus what you see, and, taking scenarios and trying to make that square peg fit in this round hole. They do it all the time. So I seen this, and, I wanted to talk about this because right now, race is the game. Anybody who thought that this was never about race, when you woke up, now you realize what it's about. As much as people try to deny and say, oh, race is a construct, and that those who played race, these are immature games, and that this is just a figment of their imagination. Well, let's look at what happened when we're talking about in business. Something has taken place, even though there's two sides to it, because some people are kind of like, well, what was the point of them doing what they did? Well, I'm going to give you some of the background to it. But first, we're going to start off here. I want you to check this out, and then we'll be right back after this. Check this out.
And for me, I think the biggest thing now is to kind of, as a black man, as a former player, I think it's best for me to support the players and just not be here tonight. And figure out what happens after that. Yeah, I just don't feel equipped to do that.
And I respect that.
right, we black, right? So, as you seen in that video there, you seen Kenny the Jet Smith decide that while I was live on the air, that he believed that the stance he needed to take, as he stated, as a black man, as a former player, he said he believed that it would be best for him to support the players and the stance that they're taking live on the air. Oh, Kenny, right? Kenny put the pressure, didn't he? So you seen Kenny got up, did what he had to do, and he walked up out of there, right? And there was a lot of feelings by a lot of people about what took place. Now, if you do some research or you just look at a lot of the videos and stuff that is being printed out here, those who are considered fans, and I'm going to say majority of those people who are fans are primarily our Caucasians. And I'm not going to say that there's not black folks who feel the same way. But white folks really have a problem with all this taking this stance, right? I seen the other night where I think it was Carlson Tucker was talking about some that winning America back. Like, how did you ever lose America, right? America only can be ran one way. It can only be seen in the eyes of them as one way. Even though all the mantras and all the policies and all the things that said here, they state that's supposed to be for what they call the citizens, seem to only placate those who are of a certain ethnicity. And when other people are trying to obtain what is written and show the disparity between what it writes to its two sides to how this whole system runs, a lot of people are getting tired of it. And so I looked at this situation. I was like, okay, here it goes, right? It was quiet for a while after with the George Floyd situation and the protests, right? There was still protesting and things still going on. We weren't hearing many stories being related in the news as to some of the things that we probably were going on, but they just probably didn't hit the media. And then the Jacob Blake situation happened, rekindled this fire, right, of what we're seeing, to the fact that here, of all the, let's say, sports organizations in this country, it had made a new platform about advocacy, about supporting Black Lives Matter, right? Now, again, Black Lives Matter, in my eyes, there's the organization, and then there's just we, BADOS, which stands for Black American Descendants of Slaves. Black Lives Matter, okay? A lot of them like to intertwine and change it and use it about the organization. We was Black Lives Matter before there was an organization. And so what we see is that it might have been nice to just put the slogan on the floor, to put certain type of names on the back of the jerseys. As long as there would not have been another incident, this wouldn't have had to come to fruition. But it did. Because you have to ask yourself, with all the focus and attention about, what people saying, police brutality, excessive force, right? That those who in those positions should be having a lot more cognizance about what's going on and making sure that certain situations are, within the framework of what you consider the law. And when they do outside of that box, based on what done happened since George Floyd and after, and I'm saying even before George Floyd, but that was the culmination where it says enough was enough. And so the NBA was put in a situation. And in that situation, certain people had to make a decision. And according to the background, when they talk about with the Milwaukee Bucks, what they did based on the simple fact that with Jacob Blake is in the city of Milwaukee, they be a team that's representing the city of Milwaukee. Decision was made. Some people say it was haste, hurried, kind of going against the grain, and decided to say we're going to not play. Kind of forced the hand of everybody else in the way they kind of say, right? So even though that it had taken place, what we see here on that TNT Live, we seen this situation here take place, right? You seen there, you see Kenny walking out, and you see Shaq, and you see Charles Barkley, who are both BADOS, Black Americans Descendant of Slaves. And so as Kenny stated before, you see him exiting himself from the studio of TNT. He said he's a black man, he's a former player, and it would be best that he supports the players in the stance that they're making. And so as you see Chuck and Shaq being live on the broadcast, Chuck could do nothing but just take him a sip. Shaq act like that time. Any of y'all remember seeing Shaq when it looked like Shaq was under some hypnosis where he was just sitting there or just stuck? That's how Shaq looked, right? But see, that's what this white supremacist system will do to you. When you're compromised. When you're compromised like that, that's what end up happening. When you done sold yourself to make it all about, let's say, status and class. Because to me, when status and class proceeds over your race, this is how you get in the situation that Shaq and Chuck is in. Because Kenny made a decision to stick with his race, his nationality, and his people that preceded anything else. And whatever circumstances he believed that came with it, he was willing to live with it. But as you see there, Chuck sitting there sipping on his cup. Shaq is sitting there. Were they supposed to get up? Is the question. Was there supposed to be a solidarity with Kenny? Because even Ernie said, I respect that. Right? Now, see, a lot of people think that when you hear people like Mr. Blows Your Minds that be out here talking, that they believe that all white people who hear me are angry and mad and all that nigger. And, right? There's some white folks who hear me and know what I'm saying is true. You know, even though Rudolph from Germany will always tell you the facts. But honestly, asking a white person, which they ain't going to tell you, you just have to know this, what Ernie said. They take stances about the stuff that is, when they talk about patriotism, being American, they take their stances. Now, it's a different America from the America that they live in, that we live in. And when we have to, and since our history has all showed us, we've always been fighting in this country. We've always had to take the stance. We always got to make some kind of sacrifices. But when you get in this class system, social system, your money, your wealth, and all the things that you accumulated are put on the scale. And you have a decision to make. All the friendships you done made, all the connections you done made, and those things that you did before you even knew about what the game is. What are you talking about, Mr. Blow Your Mind? Let's say, for instance, if you was in, let's say you come out of the conditions that BADOS, the design and the systematic ways that they designed for us to be in. We're not talking about the ones who end up having parents who found a way that could give them somewhat of a better life. And I don't know why everything is better as long as it's away from your own people, but that's the way we've been programmed. So we think that better away from us is better. So you come from that where, you know, living around white folks and this whole thing, what they call multiculturalism, is better than being amongst your people. Nothing wrong with that. If you believe it's more safer, in some sense, I'll say you might have, but just because, the wolf ain't growling or, woofing, whatever you want to call it, howling, right? Don't necessarily mean that the wolf ain't out there anyway. But your conditions of where you come from are created from the dynamic what was instituted as systematic to breed what you have in the community. And when you don't have enough positivity and people who have the so-called social status and class, not to give them the examples, then what examples do they get to see? And so you believe moving away makes it better. Okay, to each his own. You have the right to choose that. It's your family. But what happens is when you come out of those dynamics and you end up going to college and you're the first one in your family too, some even had the first out of high school. But let's say you get to college and they start talking about organizations you should join in. You get into these organizations and you give these pledges. And it's a good thing. It's kind of like a social thing to do. It's kind of the end thing to do. And if you're part of it, there's some perks and notoriety and, some fraternization and all that. But when you get to what it's all about and what you're really protecting and what it's, then you become compromised when you didn't know you was compromised. And as you grow into it, you have to keep telling yourself, because see, you're social class now. Those who talk about race, those who on the race, those are the ones that is a figure of their imagination. It's not about race. It's about class. And so how is that possible when the whole game from the beginning was about race? When did the game of race get erased? It never did. So that's why you here in 2020 are still fighting from history will show and give you all the evidence that one needs to be able to prove the facts of what is being stated. So here it is, based on the new agenda that the NBA had, they decided that we're going to talk about and stand for social issue. And then one happens while they're doing this. Not it was before, and then you kind of rearrange and say, now we're going to show some support by doing it. Now a situation arises and it happens. We all seen the video. There's a lot of stories. We haven't heard from the side of the individual who it happened to. We're getting all third-party information. Based on the simple fact that the police don't have any cameras on their half, we can only take the reports that they're writing. We can only take what the dispatchers are close. They're going to show eventually later as to what was said. We need the phone calls and everything else. But then we have to have the side that is Jacob Blake. And because he is paralyzed, doesn't mean he cannot use his own mouth to speak and tell you from his perspective and what he says from what he's seen and what had took place. So for me, I'm just going to say those who are his family, don't be so absent-minded to why he's in that hospital to not think about security for him. You understand? Because you've seen people, as I showed in the last show, again, those who got a chance to click on and said that they the age restriction, what you've seen in there is that people are saying that guns, knives, they talk about warrants, everything but what is present at hand. And so that means that these people are trying to protect, and yet we look at the police supposed to be like a referee, which is non-biased. But we know that's not to be true. Even those who play sport know that referees' ass do be biased, right? Like their ass is biased. Only the players know that. Those who are watching that don't really have a deep understanding of the game, you don't understand it. But players, coaches, and people who understand the game can recognize sometimes when a referee be on some BS. And so here was a situation where Milwaukee decided to take his stand, forcing the other team to leave out. And so word is it gets out. And so you see Kenny do what he do. Right? But as I said, did Shaq and Charles Barkley have an obligation to stand with Kenny? Or was this an individual thing that only Kenny feel the way he did. And so the reason why I want to talk about this is because when LeBron, right? When LeBron and the NBA decided to do a vote on it, which I'll get more into it, we're going to see this same dynamic happen amongst the rest of the players. Because here it is again, you see Kenny leaves, now you see Ernie turning to Shaq, right? Look at Chuck looking over at Shaq. Shaq sitting there contemplating in his mind what he finna say, because he wasn't finna get up and walk out. So from observation of just what you saw, what stance do you believe that Chuck and Shaq took? Was they yay or nay? Only you can decide that what you seen, right? Was they yay or nay about it? And that is one of the big core issues with Black Americans. Not majority, not saying all, but there's some of the elements who are just like this. When you put them in that circumstance of what they should choose or what right and wrong, somehow, based on our history and what they've been rearing, bred, and programming in us, seems to systematically kick in. We've been seeing it with a lot of these press conferences with family members who are saying things already. When we think about going back to in Dallas, when that family decided to start saying, we forgive, can I get a hug? What was the end result of that? Did not that family, based on them cajoling, apologizing, forgiving, in the end, they held a bag with nothing in it, right? They held a bag with nothing in it. I'm not saying that we as Black folks are not here, that the exchange for our loved one is the bag, as they say. I'm saying that if they got children, and in the case of Jacob Blake, who's going to be impaired, he got to get this money because he's going to be like this condition until he leaves. But if you're making these kind of apologetic and forgiving nature, aren't you creating a backdoor like what you've seen that happened in Dallas? Just saying. So that's what happens here when Black people get put in these positions when it should be unification as to if you feel that way, I feel that way too. But because we come from different backgrounds, parents teaching you different. So, I got a story to talk about how they say that Black people were teaching their children to be twice as good as white folks. Not in my damn household. That you had to be twice as good as white folk. You had to work harder than white folks. Not in my household. But in certain households, that's what they taught. They taught that you had to be better and work harder. Why? To prove yourself? You had to prove yourself to somebody who historically don't look at you in a certain way. No matter what the Constitution say, no matter what they laws say. Because that's where the game is hitting it with them. So here it was, Shaq, who on this same show has come on and showed you with a ring that showed he's part of an organization. Chuck is also part of the organization, right? So look at how Ernie is tilted looking at Shaq like, what you gonna do, big fella? What you gonna do? Big fella ain't finna do nothing, is he? Big fella just finna sit there. You know why? Then he turned to Chuck. Chuck sipping the damn cup, right? Chuck sipping the damn cup, right? Chuck didn't want none of that, right? He didn't want none of that, right? Because why? They fall in a status. They don't want to be about race. They done jumped off that race boat long time ago, right? They done jumped off that boat. And when you jump off that boat like that, it becomes obvious, especially in 2020, All the things are being revealed that people hide in the inner cores of themselves. It is being revealed. So it ain't like you can hide anymore and pretend like, well, I'm black when it's convenient. And then when the shit get hot, I'm not black anymore. The spirit dynamic of today's time is going to reveal and show where your true stance is, regardless to how you think you can fake it till you make it, right? But ain't no faking no more. It's all out in the open. And the people who, again, trying to defend themselves in the position that everybody knows, they try to make something bad and somehow turn it in a way and make it good. And so here you are supporting that. Now, again, just because somebody in their background have done some things, that don't necessarily mean that they're all bad person. A prior situation doesn't merit the fact that what end up happening in the moment that you having an interaction. But somehow, some people are justifying that. Some people are saying all kind of things. So you got caught live on air being non-supportive of something that you come from. And you expect no one to say nothing about it because why? Most people say, well, they got millions and they got this and they got that. But when it comes to you and the support, they say, well, just because I don't put it out don't mean I don't. What? Really? Because you put your money, and again, we will look at later about organization and the money that people be putting in organization. Is it ever a trickle down effect, or is it just exchanging in other people who just like them in their pockets, and they're there to actually protect the earn. They're there to protect the secret. They're there to keep you in a position until one of you can get out of there, and then you can bring others. But as long as the rest of you down there, that's what our job is. Our job is to keep you there. So you're never going to see them advocate for blackness. But guess what happened? Somebody else who, if you go in time, you have never heard him say anything when it comes to being his black, about his blackness. But when I get there, we'll talk about that, right? So that was Kenny doing what he doing. Now, this is what took place that made Kenny do what he did. And let's get into this. And we'll be right back after this. Ready to do that? Let's do this. Check this out, y'all.
Athletes in boycotting games in response to the shooting of Jacob Blake, the Milwaukee Bucks refusing to take the floor against the Orlando Magic, prompting all NBA playoff games to be postponed yesterday. Some games in Major League Baseball, the WNBA, and Major League Soccer schedules also called off. And this morning, White House advisor Jared Kushner says he will reach out to LeBron James. Christina Coleman following it all for us here in Los Angeles. Christina.
Trace, the NBA Board of Governors is meeting this morning to discuss teams boycotting games. Teams who are in the bubble down in Florida took a vote last night. Most of the teams decided they want to continue playing, but the LA Clippers and the Lakers voted to boycott the remaining few games of the NBA season. It's unclear if more games will be postponed. A total of 3 NBA playoff games were postponed yesterday after the Milwaukee Bucks refused to play Game 5 in protest of the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha. And in solidarity, games in Major League Baseball, the WNBA, Major League Soccer, and some tennis matches have been postponed. The Lakers also released this statement saying in part, quote, 80% of NBA players are black men. We cannot love them for the joy and entertainment that they bring to the world, yet sit in silence and fail to use our platforms and resources to amplify their voices when they demand the justice and equality that America has promised us all. And LA Clippers coach Doc Rivers got emotional over Blake's shooting.
Just watching the Republican convention and this spewing this fear, right? Like all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. It's amazing why we keep loving this country and this country does not love us back.
Despite frustration among athletes, not everyone is a fan of the boycott. Sports radio host Clay Davis tweeted in part, quote, "The NBA has zero control over the justice system, nor should they. There was no logic to this decision not to play and no tangible result the NBA can provide." Also, some Democrats are weighing in too. Bernie Sanders says he supports players striking for racial justice, and presidential candidate Joe Biden tweeted that these players are using their platform for good. And at this point, it's unclear when the postponed games will be rescheduled. Trace?
Yeah, indeed it is. Christina Coleman live for us.
All right, we are black, right? So there was the news story that broke that was talking about what had happened with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now they end up talking about two words that they used, right? They had used the word boycott, then they said postpone, right? So when you talk about boycott, that means, you no business, no money to be made, and we're not participating in it in every form and fashion of it, right? But that's the word they were using, but then somehow that word came back and they started talking about postpone, which means we're just going to delay till a later time, right? And as I'm doing this video today, August 29th, today will be the return day of the so-called boycott or postpone games. And we see all this, again, is coming from the shooting of Jacob Blake. And that in this interview that you heard they talked about that Kushner is going to reach out with LeBron James, right? Being his father-in-law is the president of the United States, right? And let me let you hear what he said, because we had to look at this too, right? We got to look at this, because if what's happening, let's even take the black corner of YouTube. How did the word reparation get into the 2020 presidential nominees campaign is due to the simple fact that the black corner of YouTube, people advocating, pushing ADOS and others, and Foundation and B1, which at one time it was all one, and then some kind of severing happened. But that was the social push that started to push that, and it started coming into the mouths of the politicians. Now, there are other organizations and foot soldiers and movements that are out here who've been advocating on the ground and doing great work for years. But because the system has transed into this more, let's say, social media where you can, get more people than just sitting on the corner. There's nothing wrong with being on the corner and talking to the community and informing people of your community. When we talk about long outreach, you need something that can have a big drag net, right? And social media has a lot of what they call social warriors who are out here advocating on behalf of their platform. And so what we've seen is, I showed in the last video, we seen that Al Sharpton had some kind of event, and all of them were sitting there talking about how, Elizabeth Warren, they will sign the HR 40 bill, and Kamala Harris, and, everybody was in there. Well, they was down for it, right? So they was trying to, garner support for the black community by saying that they was advocating for reparations. But again, stay tuned for the real video that I'm putting together that's going to cover all this to give you a history that many of us had not known. Stay tuned for that. Also, go to my other channel, Black Minds TV. Subscribe, help this channel to get its 1,000. So those who have talked to me and asked me about, whether they could support or not, this way help me to build this channel up. Let me start getting that going. and let it do what it do, and that will help me if that's what you want to do. So anybody who has subscribed already, also go to Black Minds TV, subscribe there, and if you have not, go over there as well as not subscribe here as well. But so I want you to hear this individual say what he said, because again, remember that clip I just played for you, they talked about, Kushner. So let's hear his words, what he says, and then I'll come right back. Check this out.
Jared, the other thing that happened overnight is that the NBA has now postponed games in large part as a result of a protest or boycott by the players. This relates to the sort of larger Black Lives Matter issue. Does the White House support the players and the owners in this case?
Look, I think that the NBA players are very fortunate that they have the financial position where they're able to take a night off from work without having to have the consequences to themselves financially. So they have that luxury, which is great. Look, I think with the NBA, there's a lot of activism, and I think that they've put a lot of slogans out, but I think that what we need to do is turn that from slogans and signals to actual action that's going to solve the problem. And if you look at President Trump's record, people are talking about social injustice. He passed historic criminal justice reform. They talked about how there's wealth inequality. He passed opportunity zones to bring more access to capital in the Black and minority community. We talk about education. He's fighting for school choice so that people in the inner cities and failing schools can go to better schools. And then he's also granted long-term funding to the historically Black colleges and universities. So what I would say is that, look, people don't like seeing what's happening in a lot of these cities. President Trump has been very strong to say we don't want violence in these cities, but we just have to take this conversation from an emotional one to a constructive one and say, what are the policies that we can agree on? We all agree on where we want things to go. President Trump has a policy platform, but it would be great if we can all come together on a policy platform that will lead forward and actually start executing. And you'll hear President Trump talk about that tonight and on the campaign, which is that a lot of people in Washington have failed these inner cities for a long time. And quite frankly, as a former Democrat, Andrew, we know each other from New York. I was a Democrat too, but coming to Washington, and now that I'm a Trump Republican, I do feel like the Democrats have run these cities for a long time, and you have nothing but failure and broken promises. President Trump has a platform that actually will make a difference, and I think that you're not going to get a different result by following the same people who have failed and doing the same policies that haven't worked. It's time for something new. We want to see the country move forward, and President Trump is the leader who's proven that he can get these things done and has a vision to actually bring change.
All right, we are black, right? So that was Jared Kushner on the aspect that we're talking about in the video. So you got a chance to hear directly out of his mouth what he said, other than just being what was reported. And so going back to that original video that was talking about the boycott versus the postpone, we see that they end up really just postponing it when it really should have been a boycott. That's what they originally wanted to do, based on from reports that are talking that is what LeBron and I think it was Kawhi Leonard eventually decided that that's what they should have done. And I'll get more into that as into the difference between this boycott and this postpone. But what we did see is we seen Coach Doc Rivers that I had mentioned on the last video that I didn't show the video, but this time you got a chance to see what Doc Rivers, they again used this word of emotional. They use emotional with black people because they say we only have emotions when we start getting angry about things that people seem to always be trying to push and prod our buttons. And then they said, we're just acting emotional. If you're going through what we've gone through, and again, some people say, oh, here come that victim talk. It's not victim talk, it's just the facts. Facts and truth don't change no matter how you try to, change it in a way that makes it seem like it's something weak about it. The truth of the fact of the matter is our people have been in this position a long time, for generations. And so to have no emotions is kind of like just being dead. Like, a lot of people say, you got to keep your emotions in check. They say there's a appointed time for everything. There's a time for everything. And sometimes in order for something to be said in a way to get the message fully, to know exactly where I'm coming from, and then it also may be coming from other places within me, because again, they talk about the Akashic records of my ancestors that reside in me, that they're pushing also for the things that we're pushing for, right? And so you heard Doc Rivers saying that we're the ones who are getting shot out here. We're the ones who are getting killed, right? You heard Doc Rivers say that we're the ones. Now, again, he's not distancing himself. He's not separating himself, right? He's inclusive to that. And I'm going to talk about that too, because this is what the fans of the NBA actually want. They want you as their entertainment and their place to, what they say, to get away and escape from their world. They want to sit there and watch you do what you do in the God gift you got. And those people who you come from are separated from what you do to what they are. And because we pay to watch you, you separate the two. Well, let's put it like this. If you go and you watch a lot of videos about people who watching about the NBA and they're talking about, I'm done with the NBA. I'm not going to watch anymore. Well, let me tell y'all something. Before there was an NBA, do you know if there wasn't for the NBA call itself buying out, collapsing the ABA to bring the J in to merge that and get that black channel over there just like it did everything else when it was all white? If it's all white, it ain't going to be too exciting. It's kind of like just, just having some salt, just putting some salt on there, right? Would you prefer just salt, or would you like to have some seasoned salt? You understand what I mean? And so you need seasoned salt when you want to get that extra flavors, right? And again, but the way that they've been watering the game down, it's like it's going back to the salt, if you know what I'm talking about, for those who know what I'm talking about. So, they want to separate you and make you different, so that way that your problem as your people is separated from you. They always want to talk about how much money you make, the life you now living. You have, what's that cat? Jason, what's his name? Jason Whitlock. You hear some of the nonsense that cat is over there sitting there talking about? He's saying that these people cannot advocate on these other people because you don't live there. What does you live in that you used to come, and that these are your people? That's how I know that these people are not cut from the cloth of BADOS. A true BADOS, unless you are on the coon sellout side, then I know why you say that. But when I hear somebody talk like that, my antenna, right, goes up and be like, okay, why is this person talking like that, right? So when anybody is Stephen A and all them, they come and they use this blanket term, I'm a black man. But this game here in the United States ain't based on the simple fact that you just saying you're a black man. This comes down to a lineage. This comes down to a bloodline. And those people of that bloodline and that lineage know this country better than anybody who has immigrated to this land. And so when we start talking like that, and you trying to say that we advocate and we trying to stand, and those of us collectively, that there's something wrong with them because you're making money, you got assets, you have fame. Why are you associating yourself with that? Because why? You always had a problem with being black in the first damn place. That's why it's so easy for you. And the secretness is many of them are not cut from the cloth like you. So what they do, because they're not going to advocate on it, they don't want you to advocate, because your advocacy somehow affects for them not being able to keep doing the things that they do in the lap of luxury that they got, right? So what they try to do is convince you and side with other folks who reason why they don't want you to do it is because you're going to make them conscious of why you're doing it. And that's what's making everybody so damn angry, as you keep making them have to keep looking at the situation and becoming conscious of it. And so we don't want to be reminded of who we really are. See, I don't pay you to remind me. I pay you to entertain me. I dribble the basketball, dunk, make me exciting, yell. Don't make me think about what we've been doing to you. Don't make me do that. I don't like it for that. So you heard Doc Rivers say, shot and kill. He didn't mince his word. He didn't hold back. Somebody dropped something, huh? Somebody dropped a hole. Somebody fell out of a chair or fell up a ladder or whatever it was. You heard the big banging, right? And he said, it's amazing how people can see these things happening, and then the things that they espousing as to try to defend is amazing. Right? It's amazing. So they also went and got this cat, right? We got this cat here. Let me show this cat here. They went and got this cat here. What was that dude's name? I think his name is Travis or some shit like that, right? So let me pull this cat up. I think I got this cat somewhere. We got that cat? We should have him, right? Okay, go back. Goddamn. Yeah, because there's a lot of people talking crazy, right? Yeah, pull. No, the other one. Okay, yeah, take what he said. Okay. Now, here's the person. Now, here's all the people who were who were supporting what had took place. But here's an individual whose job is based on announcing what you do, right? And he's a white person, right? Here's a person whose job is to announce the things that he's seeing of the grace of God has given and blessed you with the talent to be able to do with skills in uncalculable time of shifting, moving, jumping. You understand that it takes somebody, when you finally get one that's a white boy like that, he has to be the special of the special. But we keep producing these, right? And so what happens is you try to take what God has given, the Creator has given us, and try to again package and use it for your enjoyment. But the only way that our people get it is that, one, we don't have the money to be able to afford the season tickets, so we watching it at home, but you get to see it up in front. Like when we came from the hoods we come from, before there was an NBA, just imagine there was never been no NBA, and then here you is, you came around a black person, and a person was telling you about a Michael Jordan, a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, huh? You couldn't even fathom. They said, man, I seen Michael Jordan, this guy, there was a tournament and he did this move on the baseline. He dunked on, he shook John Stark, shook Charles Oakley, and went over this guy named Patrick Ewing. He's 7 feet and dunked him. What would you, in your mind, you couldn't even fathom that. So guess what? Black folks would still be seeing this. It's you who wouldn't have seen none of this. Let me say that again. Since y'all always thinking that somehow somebody owe you something about the gifts they got. If there was no NBA for no blacks to play in, they still was going to be who they was. It just was going to be in a playground. You get what I'm saying? Now we're not talking about all this multicultural where they done mix it up. We're going to talk about how when you try to keep it segregated. When it would have just been blacks living around blacks. Do you know, like me, I'm talking about where I came from, we had the hood tournaments. Huh? We played teams from out of state as well. The New York coming, all that. We had no kind of connections. And the best that would come play where we were playing at. Every summer. The hood was packed. I'm not from New York. Huh? I'm not talking about from New York, right? We was our own Mecca in from the city I'm from. You get what I'm saying? And guess what? We had everything. We had announcers, referees, we had stands, and guess what? The game didn't cost us nothing but just to get out there. And there wasn't no fighting, none of that. Out there enjoying the gifts that the Creator has blessed upon our people. Now, when you put money in the equation, it changes things. So what you do is you gut out all the talent, And put it on your stage, and then y'all sitting in the stand talking crazy as y'all can for your own enjoyment. So what you mean to tell me if they taking a damn stance about some shit that's affecting from where they came from that y'all got a problem with it? All you doing is announcing. So he says the NBA has zero control over the justice system. Ain't nobody saying whether they can control the justice system. Ain't nobody talking about them controlling the justice system. They saying they got enough money, wealth, and power. Just like you talking about people that you use you use the athletes to sell products because they are influencers. Well, what about in the white game when y'all can't junk and run and all that, but you got money, assets, power, and positions? What is that good for? What does that matriculate into? You connecting with people who can get next to connect to the person to get some things done. That's what the stance they're taking. They're taking a stance for that. You get what I'm saying? So they don't have a control over the justice system, nor should they. He say there's no logic to this decision not to play. There is a logic. The logic is, well, if I'm willing to sacrifice my career, right? Because a lot of them, I heard some people sitting there talking about they're only boycotting themselves. Wait a minute. You know that we're supposed to be going through this pandemic, right? We're going through a damn pandemic. So let's say if you got a job. If you got a job, which means you're an employee. All right. So now because of the pandemic, they say you can't go back and work unless your job is considered essential work. Then that means your ass can't go back to work. So if you're not deemed essential, so that means you sitting at home. But guess what? Yes, you don't make no damn money. But that be damn, the person that you work for, the person who own it, who's in more pearl? You or them? Now I know they done made money where they can suffice and make do. But when it gets to the point that it's eating that and no profits are coming in, who gonna be hurt worse? For all the money that you've been missing, you understand? So don't say they boycotting themselves. They're boycotting somebody's business whose whole intent of their business is to get profit. So what they're doing is trying to force the hand to have you to be tired enough of losing enough damn money, just like those who out there doing all this damn protesting, that's y'all say tearing up and robbing and doing all this stuff. Well, if they got a business, which means they got insurance, which means that they're going to be recuperated, they're going to get recouped for that. But guess who's losing in the exchange of that? The insurance business. The insurance business say this shit got to stop because we ain't in the business to actually really pay nobody. We actually in the business to just get money and then make everybody who putting their money in this susu that they going to pay for you. Yeah, let me say that again. Right? That's like saying doing a susu game that's what insurance is like, a susu game. They ain't using their damn money. They using everybody who putting their money into this. It's your turn to get it. It's your turn to get it. It's your turn to, but the bottom line money is not being touched. Now that all this stuff is happening, the bottom lines are being touched and they saying, hey, wait a minute. We got to do something to stop this damn shit. You see how this works? But you want to do it trying to make them seem stupid and they're athletes and they don't know no damn better. Now, teach his own. That's what you believe. You said there's no logic to the decision, but that's coming from a white perspective. And that's how you see things, right? And that no tangible result from the NBA can be proved or provided. No tangible. Deals are made back doors. Deals are made on the golf course. Deals are made on telephone. Wait a minute. When we talk about Colin Kaepernick, did we not see the president of the United States say about how his friends in the NFL and who he talked to, and you need to fire that son of a bitch and all, remember all that? And the next thing what ended up happening, Colin Kaepernick was gone. Did the president have anything to do with that? Was his words, did his connections be able to reach and connect to get to the fact to get him up out of there? So it's the same thing with the NBA. It's the same thing with the NBA. The only difference is you don't like the fact that they using it because technically, as I said about with Kenny and with Shaq and Chuck, a lot of these players are also in certain fraternities too, right? And they kind of biting the hand. But see, LeBron coming out of high school didn't go to college. Even though when he came in, everybody started seeing him doing all them hand signals. What the hell was up with that shit, LeBron? What you doing all that shit about? You saying you affiliated with some shit? But, you know, but again, I don't know whether he could be honorary or whatever it might be, but he was doing it. But what he trying to do and what the stance he was trying to take is for the benefit that he was thinking that was supposed to be the stance he should have taken. And so what they did is they want to make him look like he's the bad guy, right? Because again, you're trying to be too black. You're not black anymore, LeBron. We gave you $100 million coming right out of high school, right? We gave you $100 million. Oh man, do they want me to do that? Do I need? Man, I don't. I was gonna put that in there. I was gonna actually show, but I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it, right? I ain't gonna do it. Because if I do it, they use that to cut the video off. So I ain't gonna do that. So, okay. So he got $100 million coming in. He's the chosen one, right? I was gonna show the commercial. I had the commercial for you, but I ain't gonna do it because again, they're gonna try to cut it. So he was the chosen one. The chosen one was only supposed to be in here. He's gonna be the golden boy. He's gonna make all these advertisements, make all this revenue. You know what I'm saying? He was gonna do all this. As long as he never take no stance against the status quo, right? And so a lot of people say, oh, he's on the end of it. Well, shit, he been there since he was 18. He's 36. Huh? 36, he used to be, he was in your prime. You know what I'm saying? He's still in your prime. So it's like, what are y'all talking about? He still got some more years left on there, right? He still got some more good years with 32 to 36. You know, in his prime still. But y'all want to say he old and he out of the game and he shouldn't be there because, you know, he out of date, right? He need to go on by this long head, you know what I'm saying? So let's look at this, man. Let's look at this, man, right? So like I said, they showed this, right? They show, okay. They say, pro athlete boycott game after shooting of Jacob. Now, there was no boycott because you can't do a boycott, a one-day boycott. I ain't never seen that before. One-day boycott, ain't no such thing. So you just postpone the game so that you get them, let their emotions, because again, whatever happened, okay, it was in the spur of the moment. It was a good decision, they believe, because it represented that they were still on point as to this new change the NBA was starting about social justice. Okay, we're going to let this go ahead. All right, this is an extra day. That's okay. We don't lose nothing on it, right? But when they start hearing people talking about, nah, man, let's just end this and be done with it. Oh, wait a minute. We got to start talking to some of y'all back in here. Some of y'all losing y'all damn mind. What are you talking about boycotting? Now, I believe if they was going to do it, they should have did it already. But a lot of them was brand new, just getting in the game. And so they didn't have no money. So guess what? They couldn't afford it. A lot of people were relying on them making that money. But even Kyrie Irving was like, look, I'll give y'all money, right? There was people who had been making money for years who was willing to say, if you sit out, come apply, and based on your needs, I'm willing to help you. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other players, you know, that could have did it as well. But that's not what they wanted. Because again, I'm going to show you why that's why it couldn't work that way, right? So, they say this, right? They say like this. They say that 80% of the NBA players are black men, right? Now, you know, if you're an avid watcher here on the Black Minds News, black men don't necessarily mean BADOS. Now, again, I'm not here to be divisive. It's not that I don't include them as family. What I'm saying is in this country, in the history we're talking about, you use that in a general sense, right? That you saying, look at these pictures and look at these people, they're black men. But all the black men that you're talking about in the NBA are not cut from the BADOS. So when you have players that come from other places, let's say, who would you consider if you talk about Giannis, he a black man, but he's not BADOS, right? If you talk about somebody like that Jonathan Isaac, he was a black man, but he was not from BADOS. You understand what I'm saying? What about Alpha Rook Aminu? Is he a black man, but he not a black man from the United States. You get what I'm saying? When you're talking about somebody like Wes, I think it was Wes Awundu. Is he a black man? He's a black man, but he's not a black man from America. You get what I'm saying? When you say Serge Ibaka, is Serge Ibaka? No, he's not, right? What if you say Pascal Siakam? Is he a black man? But is he from the United States, right? DeJuan Hernandez, is he a black man from the United States, right? When you're talking about somebody named like maybe David Waba, right? Is he a black man? Is he from you get what I'm saying? So you have black people in the NBA that will fit in the quota, as you say, 80%. But we're talking about black Americans descended of slaves. It's not 80% of the league. But you use that to try to say, see, the league is about being black. No, because some of them are from Canada, France, Africa. You understand? You got people who coming from all over. Remember, you made the game global. So a lot of these players that we're talking about, yes, they represent as being in the category for being black. But when we talk about specifically and about the plight that's going on here in this country, we're talking about BADOS. And y'all know that. And the thing is, we're not being specific. And that's why they don't like a channel like this, because we're specific about what we're talking about. We're not just saying anything for the simple fact just to blanket and cover everybody, because we understand that that's how they've been undermining us the whole damn time. So to say that we cannot love them for the joy and entertainment that they bring to the world, yet sit in silence and fail to use our platforms, right? That's what they say, right? And so that they'll tell you that the mantra of the country is, if you have an issue with certain things, you can protest. Then when you start using what you say is your constitutional rights, what end up happening is, because it's bothersome and it's reminding, and I'm fragile of mind and I don't want to be reminded, I don't want to say, but I'm really limited about how much you can do it. To the fact that you even hear people now talking about some people getting shot in protesting, right? Getting shot now, right? And so, right? And so they'll say something like, let's see, right? That was the second part. Was that second part there? Okay, you put that back up there, right? No, go back to that one, right? And it says, and resources to amplify their voices when they demand the justice and equality that Americans has promised us all. America has promised us all, right? But that's what it is. You know, a promise that you can't keep. A writing that says something but actually don't mean you. What do you mean, Mr. Blows Your Mind? Let me do this, man, because you know sometimes people keep forgetting. You know, they suppressed the hell out of that last one video that I did. But I want you to see this, and I want you to keep this in your mind. Remember, this is in 1857. We're talking about an ancestor named Dred Scott, who fought the system, who, based on the words that they said, right, ain't changed today. The words that they say versus what really it is two different things. Now remember, this comes from the Supreme Court of the United States. There is no court higher. There is no law that can actually appeal what they make, right? So let me remind you of this, what I did. Check this out and be right back. Dred Scott versus Sanford. The question is whether the class of persons in the plea and abatement composed of a portion of this people and are constituent members of this sovereignty. We think they are not, that they are not included and were not intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution, and can therefore claim none of the rights and privileges which that instrument provides for and secures to citizens of the United States. On the contrary, they were at the time considered as a subordinate and inferior class of beings who had been subjugated by the dominant race, and whether emancipated or not, yet remained subject to their authority, and had no rights or privileges but such as those who held the power and the government might choose to grant them. The language of the Declaration of Independence is equally conclusive. It begins by declaring that when in the course of human events It becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal stations to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled them. Decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impels them to the separation. It then proceeds to say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. General words above quoted would seem to embrace the whole human family. If they were using a similar instrument at this day would be so understood. But it is too clear for dispute that the enslaved African race were not intended to be included, and formed no part of the people who framed and adopted this declaration. For if the language, as understood in that day, would embrace them, the conduct of the distinguished men who framed the Declaration of Independence would have been utterly and flagrantly inconsistent with the principles they asserted. And instead of sympathy of mankind to which they so confidently appeal, they would have deserved and received universal rebuke and reprobation. Upon these considerations, it is the opinion of the court that the act of Congress which prohibited a citizen from holding and owning property of this kind in the territory of the United States, north of the line therein mentioned, is not warranted by the Constitution, and is therefore void, and that neither Dred Scott himself nor any of his family were made free by being carried into the territories, even if they had been carried there by their owner with the intention of becoming a permanent resident. Upon the whole, therefore, it is the judgment of this court that it appears by the record before us that the plaintiff is in error, is not a citizen of Missouri in the sense in which that word is used in the Constitution. All right, we black, right? So that was the Dred Scott decision by Chief Justice Roger B. Taney, right? And many people say, well, that was abolished when the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment came. Really? Right? You just stay tuned for this other video that I'm going to put together. And those of you who ain't never subscribed or heard before, you better subscribe. You don't want to miss this one. Because I'm going to show y'all something that this country don't want to talk about and try to act as if like, okay, what you just heard, it's not still the law of the land. So here you are in 2020 still fighting about injustices that seem to be like according to the way they write, but it's a different law for you than it is for somebody else. And so the same thing goes on when you see these athletes and with the stance that they're taking is because they believe that why are they taking a stance when you are not like them? The only way I can give you a perfect example of this is, everybody remember seeing the movie Do the Right Thing? You remember there was a scene when Spike Lee was talking to Sal's son and they had a conversation. You don't remember that? Check this out. I'll be right back.
Can I talk for a second? What? Pino, who's your favorite basketball player? Magic Johnson. Who's your favorite movie star? Eddie Murphy. Who's your favorite rock star? Prince. You're a Prince. Boss. Bruce. Prince. Bruce. Pino, all you ever talk about is nigga this and nigga that. And all your favorite people are so-called niggas.
It's different. Magic, Eddie, Prince. I'm not niggas. I mean, they're not black. I mean, Let me explain myself. They're not really black. I mean, they're black, but they're not really black. They're more than black. It's different.
It's different?
Yeah, to me, it's different.
You know, deep down inside, I think you wish you were black.
Get the fuck out of here.
Laugh if you want to. You know, your hair is kinkier than mine. What does that mean? And you know what they say about dark Italians?
You know, I've been listening and reading.
You've been reading now?
I read. I've been reading about your leaders, Reverend Al, Mr. Do, Sharp Tone, Jesse. Keep hope alive.
That's fucked up.
Keep hope alive.
Hey, that's fucked. Don't talk about Jesse.
And even the other guy, what's his name? Farrakhan.
Minister Farrakhan.
All right, sorry. Minister Farrakhan. Anyway, Minister Farrakhan always talks about the so-called day when the black man will rise. We will one day, what does he say? We will one day rule the earth as we did in our glorious past.
Yeah, that's right.
What past you talking about? I mean, what did I miss?
We started civilization.
Man, keep dreaming, man. Then you woke up.
All right, we black, right? So yeah, you remember that scene there when they had that conversation about the difference between, you know, you like black athletes, you like black singers, you like the black creator's gift, but you don't like niggas. And you heard him say, well, they're black, but they're not like that. There's a difference between them and you, Mr. Blows Your Mind. There's a difference between them and you. See, they don't make me remind me of the shit that I've been and who I am and what I continue to do. They're willing to take the dollar that I give them and live and not be amongst you, around us, play with our kids, entertain us, marry some of our daughters, you know, all that stuff, but they don't remind us of the conditions from which they came. So we don't pay you to do that. It's kind of like this YouTube channel, right? They do everything to keep this channel from growing. And if you don't even figure that out by now, I told you I'm the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. So, right? That they try to make that distinction, right? Oh, there's a big distinction between you and them. And so what happens is a lot of times they grow up, they get our people, right? They get our people. And so let's think of it like this as well. Have you ever thought about, like, when you went to school, let's say you didn't go into this kind of, let's say, multicultural integrated school. And remember how in history told us how white folks want to be separate but equal. And then they would flight out when we moved into the communities and things like that. Have you ever thought about, do white schools with white teachers, with white curriculum, in a white area are the same thing of the same subject that they teach you? Is it the same conversation? So as I read to you about the Dred Scott, right? And what Dred Scott said, other than the fact that if you don't do your own personal research, or do you happen to, again, watch Black Minds News report and heard it for the first time, then you wouldn't even know that that's what had been said unless you come across the information or join some kind of organization, right? But let's say white folks make sure that their children understand the game of white supremacy and what it is to be white and the difference between you and them. So let's imagine that in a white classroom, when they talking about slavery and emancipation, and when they talk about that there, the Dred Scott case, you a little kid hearing that a black person is not a citizen, can never be a citizen. This country isn't nothing for him, right? And he can only be in a subjugate position under the authority of the government and what it was established for him. What does that breed in a nation of people? Is that why you see the things that you see and the way people act like this? And as you heard the coach there, right? Doc Rivers say, how is it that we keep loving a country that won't love us? Why do we still love a country that won't love us? And yet can see the wrong in what some of their people do, and yet find the needle in a haystack to try to reverse it to make them seem like they're right. Does it have something to do with the rearing and teaching that they got, that you not being there can have a more freer conversation about subjects in a more in-depth white supremacist way, unbeknownst even maybe to the children, or even they might do it directly, because we're not talking about today and having cameras or somebody. We're talking about when it was just, that was it. So they believe what Judge B. Taney has said. So everything that you're fighting is against what they established. They couldn't repeal it is because why? Dred Scott had died. So you couldn't take it back to get it repealed because he was dead. And according to what Judge B. Taney said, there was no legislative, executive, or presidential power that could actually overturn what the Supreme Court had did. So you came with an amendment to add you in. You're adding. See, if the words say all, right, you don't have to add me in. It says it already. So that just tells there's a distinction between you and I. But they're not trying to admit it. So here they are trying to force their hand to do something they ain't really trying to do, right? So somebody decided to think that this is a good opportunity for them, right? Somebody thinking this is a good opportunity for them to, go ahead and try to use this for leverage, right? Let's see, do we got that? Where's that at? Oh man, you didn't put that in there? Oh, hold on, man. You're supposed to be in there, man. Do that in real time then, sir. Put that in real time, because we need that. Because there's something in that image that I want y'all to see. Because remember, we got to go back to talk about what Jared Kushner said, right? And what he wants to propose to LeBron is, okay, how can we resolve this, LeBron? What is it that you believe that, because as he said something about that his father-in-law has a policy platform, right? That instead of all this activism and slogan signaling, right? He talked about how his father-in-law created the opportunity zones. Many people will talk about, only certain people made money on that. I know they show T.I. and Big Mike. Yeah, they made money, but did it trickle down to the community, right? And that he want to change from the emotional effects of black people to some kind of constructive one, right? Right? That was what Jared Kushner was saying he wanted to propose to LeBron James. And so as LeBron James is supposed to be getting this, he's the chosen one. Now, chosen one might have been when you're looking at basketball. But sometimes you're not picked, you're chosen, right? Like sometimes, when we look at this system here, what they do is they pick people that they think that would be beneficial for them in their system to do certain things to, that will work on behalf so that they can make things smoother as they're trying to whatever agenda they really got. And that's what they do. And that's why you be seeing certain tools they use when certain situations happen. The same people keep coming out in front of you all the time, right? Trying to show you that they're your leaders. If they say you follow and do as they tell you, right? Or they think they have the best interest at heart for you, right? What happened to that? Can you find that for me, sir? Can you find that for me? So you think that they got the best, at heart for you as a people. But I could actually, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Because you should have had that in there, sir. You should have had that already in there. So what I'm going to do is this. I want you to hear this brother here, and I want you to understand this, right? Because there's a lot of people saying, well, why talk so much about this? I mean, LeBron is nothing but a basketball player, right? And he can't get nothing done. And I'm not sitting here putting my eggs in the basket on LeBron at all. But I'm just saying we're going to have to look at something. This is what we're going to have to look at. But first of all, I want you to hear this as we get ready to end the show. I'm going to come back and finish this. But do we got that? You don't got that either? You should have that in there. Yeah, you got that. Okay. Yeah, go with him. All right. So I want y'all to listen to what this man is about to say, because he actually cutting on both sides. But listen to what he's talking about, and then I'll come back after that, and hopefully we have everything we're supposed to have the first time. So check this out. Listen to what he's saying, and be right back.
Police stations on fire, shop owners beaten in their own stores, the destruction of entire city blocks. To our media, to major corporations, to the Democratic Party itself, this is all defensible. It's heroic. It's the modern manifestation of the civil rights movement. Bob Woodson was actually a part of the civil rights movement, the original one. He's the founder of the Woodson Institute. He joins us now to assess what we're seeing on television. Mr. Woodson, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I'm just going to throw it to you. You've been watching.
Pleased to be here, Tucker.
Thank you. What do you make of this?
Well, Tucker, what you were saying about it really being a class, as a veteran of the civil rights movement, one of the great promises we gave to low-income blacks is that if you were to elect blacks to public office through Voting Rights Act, and we were running those institutions, that all of Black America would be better off. In the past 50 years, $22 trillion have been spent on poverty programs. 70% goes not to the poor, but those who serve poor people. So many of those people taking office use this money to create a class of people who are running these cities. And now, after 50 years of liberal Democrats running the inner cities, where we have all of these inequities that we have, race is being used as a ruse, as a means of deflecting attention away from critical questions such as why are poor blacks failing in systems run by their own people? If race was an issue, even the criminal justice system. And if we continue to look at life through a racial prism, when evil wears a black face, it will escape detection and therefore correction.
But how damaging is it to our society for leaders to effectively incite racial division and hatred in order to cover their own failures? That seems like a very reckless thing to do.
It is worse. I mean, when you have low-income people in these people like in the Phillips section of Minneapolis, and these are ethnic neighborhoods, business centers that have been wiped out. People cannot get to the stores now, and they are crying out, and they're saying when everyone goes home and the cameras are gone and the civil rights grace-wreathing celebrities, have done what they have done, low-income people are the ones who are suffering and they will continue to suffer. And that's why we must confront this and not allow race. We must deracialize race, and we must desegregate poverty. And that's what the Woodson Center is committed to do, working with the least of God's children to give them an opportunity to create solutions from the bottom up. But it is not race. I don't know what systemic racism is. Maybe someone can explain what that means.
It's a way to make people be quiet and stop asking questions about economics, as far as I can tell. So, but I just have to ask you, since you've been involved for 50 years, as you just said, and you were involved in the original civil rights movement, how does it feel to look back at the original goals of the movement and then to see people like Shaun King use the phrase civil rights activist in reference to himself? Is that bewildering to you?
It is bewildering and also painful, because I left the movement because I realized that many of the people who suffered most, poor blacks, did not benefit from the change. That their demographics was used by some of those leaders. It's more class than it is race.
Yeah.
And so they used it, and now race is being used to deflect attentions away from the failures of people running those institutions. The question is, why are black kids failing in school systems run by their own people? When Eric Holder was the U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C., a lot of young people were shot by the police, but they were black police shooting black kids, and not one was prosecuted. But there was no public outcry, because as long as illegality or evil wears a black face, then it escapes detection. And that's what's wrong with looking through life through the prism of race.
Right. It doesn't make anybody better, that's for sure. Why do you think corporate America, so many of our biggest and most profitable companies, have jumped in so aggressively on the side of Black Lives Matter, for example?
You know, I really think it's white guilt, it's really a white guilt, and also it's an easy out. There are two people that I think are destroying this country, and that are guilty white people and angry, rich, entitled blacks who continue to play the race card, and they don't have to live with the consequences of their advocacy. When they're talking about the worst thing that can happen with police, right now, it's very ironic that as police nullification occur and they don't patrol in those communities, the murder rate goes up.
Of course.
And so actually, when these middle-class people who live in safe communities are villainize the police, but low-income people have to, the murder rate goes up. That same study you quoted from Harvard also documented the fact through police nullification results in less police, more black-on-black crime, more black-on-black deaths. Poor people are being hustled by these middle-class politicians. As Malcolm X said, they're being bamboozled, scammed, hoodwinked, and one day, that sleeping giant is going to wake up and understand who the real culprit is.
Yeah.
And it is people who look like them who are failing to use their positions to profit the least of God's children. Instead, they're using it to benefit themselves and their own group.
You're telling a very sad story, Bob Woodson. Mr. Woodson, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
All right, we are black, right? So that was Bob Woodson, right? Bob Woodson is said to have been from the original movement of the civil rights movement. And you see him on this Carson Tucker show. And by him being so-called a veteran of the civil rights movement, I guess he's been around long enough to say the things. Now, I agree in one part with him, but the other part about him, I don't agree, right? Now, he said, if you heard him clearly in this video, he said that there was great promises was given to the lower blacks, okay? And this is a game that has been going on, going all the way back to, there's a time in 1899 when there was a movement that was happening in this country that our ancestors were trying to do. And the same dynamic that he's talking about has been plaguing us this whole time. Mr. Blowy, I tell you, we're talking about LeBron and I am. And this is why I said that we're going to go back to when Jared Kushner was talking about he wanted to talk to LeBron. And I'm going to show y'all something. So he said that blacks, BADOS at this particular time, they were made great promises if they were to, when we get this 1965 voting right, that if you start voting black, right, to get into these positions of office, that these institutions, right, they're going to be run by blacks and, facilitated by blacks, we would be better off and beneficial for us as black Americans. He said that for the last 50 years, that has been about $22 trillion has been passed through what they consider to call poverty programs. $22 trillion in the last 50 years. That somehow said that money supposedly had been created to make these poverty programs. He said if you take 70% of that $22 trillion, this money was allocated to those who were running these institutions and their cronies and all their family members, right? And so what you end up having is this bourgeoisie, right? Those who go to college, those who become in those fraternities, those who become protectors of the urn, they be put in positions that do what? Because they get away from race. As he says, race, he don't believe in race. See, because he's also part of the bougies, right? He's part of that. But he's telling because he was from the inside, and he's siding with the so-called dominant society. That's why they got him on there. You come in here and you tell them because you was in the civil rights. You know what it is. We agree with you're saying that it was the blacks who sold out blacks, just like when BLAK was talking about Akon and talking about, okay, yeah, it was the Jews and the whites, but the Africans, you were there helping us too. So now you got a scapegoat. Oh, we got black people who are doing this to black people. But what you're not going to say is that those black people who Bob Woodson is talking about are cronies who are created in them institutions that would be facilitators for you as watchers and protectors of what you trying to do. Huh? Now, I don't want to talk about that part, right? And so these people who don't want to be advocating on race, when they get in situations when they need it, they'll use race, as they say, to facilitate and get more money. There's a book I read some years back called Shakedown by Jesse Jackson. You never read that book? Get that book. And it'll tell you how that person who wrote that book, right? I never seen him go after him for defamating his character and none of that. So I have to just say that a lot of stuff that was said in there might just be true. That again, as you heard Bob Wilson say, bamboozle, led astray, profit, hustlers, pimps, all that stuff is again to keep a buffer zone, keep us down here while these people who you created to be our leaders really not leading, they're just getting the money. So again, I can agree with him on that aspect, but I'm not trying to take the focus off who the real culprit is. Again, as I talked about with the Akon situation, we have sellouts. We always had sellouts. And so that ain't no different, but don't try to paint the picture and make it seem like the reason why we're in this condition that he say, well, how can blacks be doing so bad when black people are the ones who are your teachers and the mayors and all that stuff? But again, you're just part of the design. Right? You don't want to admit that part, that the grand scheme of this is just a way that they use so that they can say, look, there's a black person in that position. Why can't he say anything? Well, you can't say we're doing it. He's black, but he works for you. You get what I'm saying? But he works for you. And so he says, when evil wears a black face, it will escape detection and responsibility. Meaning, black people that's amongst us who say they leading, who advocate, don't necessarily mean they there on your best behalf. They in it for what they in it for. It's kind of like some people say that every time a situation happens, they say when the situation getting out of rise and when they bring in their tool to come in to suppress and get locked up in front of everybody, go to jail and make everybody else go back home and like, yeah, we done did someone out there and protest, right? And so we have to ask ourselves, ask yourself right now, what leaders do you have? What politicians, what leaders can you go and rely on to do anything on behalf of us? So that's why you see that Jared did this, right? You seen, let me put that up there. Put that up there. So you seen when Jared was in that thing saying he wanted to reach out to LeBron James, right? LeBron James is doing something because he can controlling something that actually can have a lot of trickle. He can have a trickle effect by all the other sports. Like we seen soccer, the Japanese black girl, she stopped some soccer. You understand? This could be a trickle down effect. But we're now talking after the fact that we know that they're going back and playing today. But the fact is, if what LeBron said he tried to do, right? What he tried to do, because let me show y'all this. Because I'm not trying to make this like LeBron is the savior. I'm not trying to say that LeBron is a leader. What I'm saying is what is being proposed to him, right? Because remember when LeBron called Donald Trump a bum, right? So, Donald ain't going to come out there. So he's sending his advisor to him. Donald Trump want to win this damn race. Now, I know a lot of black people got their feelings about Donald Trump, right? But I'm looking at Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Put them both in a bag and put your hand in there and pull out whoever come out. It don't matter. It's going to be the same, right? Ain't going to be no difference. Only difference is, would you prefer to have the mother say directly what he is or the other one pretend like he not what it is? That's the only difference really here, right? And so, if somebody is going to propose something to you in the position and what people out here advocate, especially in this black corner of the YouTube, right? But this is what they trying to sell. Let me show y'all something before I end this show, because I'm going to end it after this. Where's that at? No. Where's that one? Okay, where's that at? You ain't got that either? Oh man, you messing up, man. You messing up, man. Where is that at? You didn't even put that? Okay, you do got it. Okay, there you go. All right, so you see what they said LeBron turned off younger players when speaking at meeting analysts say, right? So I seen Stephen A. Smith come out talking about, the young cats are out here today that's out here advocating and protesting. And then it's kind of the same thing in the NBA. They ain't trying to hear that. So what he trying to say is, here's LeBron who's cut from BADOS based on what done took place. And he said LeBron want to take a hard stance. I think Kawhi Leonard, I think there was a 2 out of 13. So if they say 13 teams, I think that's what is it 16 teams? So there had to be 3 teams that decided. I guess Milwaukee probably was one, but they didn't want to say it. But anyway, Milwaukee, the Clippers in LA were deciding to say we were done, no more season, right? So they say that a lot of them were turned off because of what LeBron was saying and advocating on behalf. But the truth of the matter is, the NBA has a lot of foreign players in it. Let me say that again. Even though they want to sit there and say, as I was saying earlier, that the league is 80% black, but out of that 80% of black, how many of that is BADOS cut? USDA cut? How many is that? And so that means that you have, and then even with that USDA cut, you still going to have some that's kind of like this Bob Woodson, what he's talking about, those who work on the other side, even though they look like you, right? So if he's taking a hard stand because he's the face trying to show his people he advocating on them, and then the others inside internally are saying they not trying to do that, right? But you're going to say that they turned off because they don't feel like LeBron feel. That's because they're not cut from what LeBron is cut. And some of them just from long generations of people who would just sell out. That's some of them, not all of them. And so Jared Kushner and Donald Trump has decided to do this. Let me show you something, y'all. Let me show you. Let me show you. Let me show you this. So Jared Kushner criticized LeBron James for a lack of social activism, right? Now look at that picture real good. Did y'all hear the last, what was that they called, what Donald Trump was talking? And he talking about how much he done for black people? Huh? He said he done did a whole lot for black people, right? He talked about all the stuff that he talking about. But are you noticing in the background of Jared's picture, in his picture there, what do you see in the background there? You see Abraham Lincoln, right? Abraham Lincoln is the one who emancipated the slaves, they say, right? Put us in a de facto statelessness in this country, right? Where we was in limbo, which we became now wars of the state, right? And so based on the Dred Scott decision, right? And the fact that trying to fight and get repaired and reparations, you need an act like Lincoln to lift it. But the question becomes the messenger that has to be sent. Is it in his mind to propose? There's two things he can put on the table. Reparation is one, but chopping that qualified immunity is another. So he's putting in that image, he's telling something. But you got to be able to read it to understand what he's saying. Black folks, are you willing to put that on the line? Because is he crazy enough that he want to win the game? That if you come in there and say the right thing that he say he willing to do, will he do it? This is Black Minds News.
Basketball chose one and was on the game for court vision, and it was granted to him. Can I get a layup?